The alarm screamed through the small mining station. Taman jumped from his chair and ran to the control panel. His coffee mug fell to the floor and shattered. Something big was coming toward his home in space. He lived alone on asteroid KR447. His job was simple. He mined rocks and sent them back to Earth. The work was boring, but the pay was good. Most days, nothing happened. He fixed machines, ate his meals, and watched old movies. He had been here for 8 months without seeing another living thing. The radar showed a massive shape approaching fast. Too fast. Whatever it was hurt and falling more than flying. Taman pressed his face against the thick window and waited. The creature crashed into the rocky ground outside his station. Dust and stones flew everywhere. The impact shook the entire building. Taman grabbed the wall to stay standing. When the dust cleared, he saw something that made his heart stop. It was a Dratheen, a real one. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Drathen. They were monsters. Living weapons. 12 feet tall with black scales that could stop bullets. They had 4 arms and jaws that could bite through steel. Armies hired them to destroy enemy ships. Pirates used them to scare colonies into surrender. No human had ever stood close to one and lived to tell the story. But this one was dying. Taman could see the burns across its body. Plasma weapons had melted through some of its armor scales. Dark blood pooled under it. The creature tried to stand but fell again. Then Taman saw movement behind it. 3 small shapes stumbled through the dust. They were babies, cubs. Each one was the size of a large dog. They had the same black scales as their mother, but they looked soft, not hard. They made high-pitched crying sounds. They were scared. The mother Dratheen turned her massive head toward Taman's station. Her yellow eyes found him through the window. She made a deep sound in her throat. Then she did something Taman had never seen in any video or report about the Dratheen. She pushed her cubs toward his airlock door. She used her huge arms to move them forward, even though the movement clearly hurt her. The cubs did not want to go. They tried to run back to her. She pushed them again, harder this time. Taman stood frozen. His brain could not process what was happening. The creature wanted him to take her babies. A Dratheen was asking a human for help. The mother collapsed. Her breathing came in rough gasps. Blood flowed faster from her wounds. She looked at Taman again, and her eyes seemed to say everything. She was begging. She was trusting. She was dying. Taman's hands shook as he reached for the airlock controls. This was insane. Those cubs would grow up to be killing machines. They could rip him apart right now if they wanted to. But he looked at the mother's eyes and he could not say no. He opened the outer door of the airlock. The 3 cubs stumbled inside, still crying for their mother. Taman sealed the outer door and started the air cycle. Through the window, he watched the mother Dratheen. She was looking at the airlock where her babies had gone. Even dying, she kept watching. The cycle finished. The inner door opened. The 3 cubs spilled into Taman's living area. They looked around with wide eyes. They were shaking. One of them, the smallest, made a sound like a whimper. They smelled like metal and smoke. Taman stayed very still. He did not know what to do. The cubs noticed him and their bodies went tense. The biggest one opened its mouth and showed rows of tiny, sharp teeth. It made a hissing sound. "It's okay," Taman said softly. His voice was shaking. "I won't hurt you." The cubs did not understand his words, but something in his tone made them pause. They huddled together in a corner, watching him with suspicious eyes. The smallest one kept looking back at the airlock, calling for its mother. Taman slowly moved to the window. The mother Dratheen was still there, still watching the station. Her eyes were getting dim. Taman pressed his hand against the glass. He did not know if she could see the gesture, but he needed to do something. The mother's head dipped lower. Her breathing stopped. She was gone. Taman closed his eyes. He had just watched something impossible. A creature that the whole galaxy feared had trusted him with the most important thing in her life. She could have tried to break into his station. She could have threatened him. Instead, she had asked. She had hoped. Behind him, one of the cubs made a sad sound. It knew. Somehow it knew its mother was dead. The other 2 joined in. Their cries were not angry or violent. They were just sad. They sounded like any child who had lost their parent. Taman turned around and looked at the 3 small creatures in his home. They were orphans now. If he called for help, the mining company would send soldiers. They would kill these cubs without thinking twice. The galaxy did not want more Dratheen in it, but Taman had made a promise. Not with words, but with that moment when he opened the airlock. The mother had trusted him. She had chosen him out of all the beings in the universe. He walked slowly to his food storage. The cubs tensed, ready to run or fight. Taman opened a container and pulled out a protein bar. He broke it into small pieces and placed them on the floor between him and the cubs. "I don't know if you can eat this," he said quietly, "but it's all I have right now." The smallest cub moved first. It crept forward on shaking legs and sniffed the food. It looked at Taman, then at the food, then back at Taman. Finally, it took a small piece in its mouth. The cub chewed carefully and swallowed. The other two watched. When their sibling did not die, they came forward too. Soon all three were eating the pieces of protein bar. Taman sat down on the floor, keeping his distance but staying close enough to help if they needed it. He watched the three cubs eat and he wondered what he had just done. He had just become the guardian of three creatures that would grow up to be the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Outside the window, the mother's body lay still on the gray rocks. Taman made a silent promise to her. He would keep her children safe. He did not know how, but he would find a way. The smallest cub finished eating and looked at him. Its yellow eyes were not scary anymore. They just looked tired and sad. Taman slowly reached out his hand. The cub sniffed his fingers and then very gently pressed its head against his palm. Taman felt tears on his face. This was real. This was happening. He was not alone anymore, and neither were they. The morning came, but Taman had not slept. The three cubs had fallen asleep in a pile near the heating vent. He had watched them all night, afraid to close his eyes. They looked peaceful when they slept. Almost cute. It was hard to believe they would grow into monsters. Taman knew he had to report what happened. He walked to his communication console and sent a message to headquarters. He explained everything as simply as he could. Dead Drathine mother. 3 cubs alive. Requesting help. The response came faster than he expected. A woman's face appeared on his screen. Her name tag said Hannah. She was a xenobiologist. Her eyes went wide when she heard about the cubs. "You have lived Drathine young?" Hannah leaned closer to her camera. "Do you understand how incredible this is? We know almost nothing about their development. This could change everything we know about their species. I just need to know how to feed them," Taman said. He was too tired to care about science. A man pushed Hannah aside. His uniform showed he was security. His name was Doyun. "Listen carefully. Lock those creatures in a sealed room. Stay away from them. We are sending a team to neutralize the biological threat." "They are just babies," Taman said. "They are weapons that will grow up to kill people," Doyun replied coldly. "You have 48 hours. Do not do anything stupid." The screen went black. Taman stared at it for a long moment. Neutralize, that was just a fancy word for kill. They were going to come here and kill 3 cubs who had done nothing wrong except be born. Hannah's face appeared again on a different channel. She looked around nervously before speaking. "I'm using a private line. They'll notice soon. Listen, I sent you a file with everything we know about Drathine biology. It's not much, but it might help you keep them alive. I tried to stop Doyun, but nobody listens to scientists anymore." "Why are you helping me?" Taman asked. "Because every species deserves a chance to exist," Hannah said. "Even scary ones. Especially the babies." The transmission ended. Taman downloaded the file and started reading. Drathine needed high protein and specific minerals. Their stomachs could break down almost anything, but they grew stronger with the right nutrition. The file had a recipe for a food mixture. The problem was that Taman did not have most of the ingredients. He was a miner, not a chef, but he had rocks. Lots of rocks. He checked the mineral content of the asteroids he had been mining. Some of them matched what the cubs needed. He got to work. He ground up specific ores and mixed them with his protein supplies. The result looked terrible. It was a gray paste that smelled like metal. But it was all he could make. One of the cubs woke up. It was the boldest one, the one that had hissed at him yesterday. Taman decided to name them. This one would be Isol. The biggest one was Bomb. The smallest, the one that had touched his hand, was Juno. Isol watched him with suspicious eyes. Taman put a bowl of the gray paste on the floor and backed away. Isol sniffed it and made a disgusted sound. The cub looked at Taman like he was an idiot. "I know it looks bad," Taman said, "but please try it." Isol turned away. Hours passed. The other cubs woke up. They were hungry. Taman could hear their stomachs making noises, but none of them would touch the food. They were too proud or too scared. Finally, Juno could not take it anymore. The small cub wobbled to the bowl and took a tiny lick. It made a face but did not spit it out. Juno took another lick, then another. Soon it was eating properly. Isolde and Bomb watched. Their hunger won over their pride. All three cubs were soon eating the gray paste. Taman felt relief flood through him. They would not starve today, but he had a bigger problem. In 48 hours, soldiers would come. He needed to disappear. Taman went to the communication relay and found the main power coupling. He pulled it out. The entire system went dark. Now headquarters could not track him or listen to his conversations. He was officially a criminal. He had destroyed company property and refused a direct order. If they caught him, he would spend years in prison. But he looked at the three cubs eating their terrible food, and he knew he had made the right choice. Days passed. Taman learned more about the cubs. They were smart. Much smarter than animals. Isolde figured out how to open storage containers. Bomb learned which buttons controlled the lights and started playing with them. Juno followed Taman everywhere, watching everything he did. They were also destructive. They chewed on cables. They scratched the walls. They fought with each other constantly, rolling around and biting. Taman had to pull them apart multiple times a day. He got scratched and bitten often. The injuries were not serious yet, but the cubs were growing fast. Taman made toys for them. He welded together metal frames for them to climb. He created balls from scrap materials for them to chase. The cubs loved the toys. They played for hours, making happy sounds that Taman had never heard from any recording of adult Dratheen. At night, they still slept in a pile. But now the pile included Taman. Juno would curl up against his side. Bomb would put one heavy paw on his leg. Isolde would sleep nearby, always watching even with closed eyes. They felt safe with him. That thought made Taman's heart hurt in a good way. He examined the mother's body one day wearing his spacesuit. He needed to understand what killed her. The plasma burns were obvious, but there was something else. Strange marks on her scales that did not match any weapon he knew. He took samples and ran them through his basic analysis tools. The results confused him. There were traces of biological compounds that should not exist in weapons. Someone had created something new. Something designed specifically to hurt Dratheen. That meant someone was hunting them on purpose. Taman needed more information. He activated a secret communication device he had bought years ago for emergencies. It connected to the dark networks where information brokers sold secrets. He sent out a message asking about Dratheen and weapons designed to kill them. The response came from someone called Mira. She sent him encrypted files filled with terrible information. The Dratheen homeworld was destroyed 3 years ago, not by war, by genocide. A group called the Combine wanted Dratheen DNA to make bioweapons. They killed almost all of them. Only a few escaped. The mother must have been one of the last. She had been running, trying to keep her babies safe. She had chosen Taman's remote station because it was far from everything. She hoped her cubs would be safe here. Taman felt sick. The cubs playing in his station were not just orphans. They were survivors of genocide. They might be the last of their kind. He sent another message on his secret device. This one went to his sister, Kyung. She had been a soldier before she retired. She lived on a quiet farm now and refused to talk about her military days. But she still knew things. She still had contacts. Little brother. Her message came back. What trouble are you in now? He told her everything. There was a long silence. Then her face appeared on his screen. She looked older than he remembered, tired. You cannot fight the Combine, Kyung said. They have armies, ships, resources. You have 3 baby aliens and a mining station. I know, Taman said. But I made a promise. Kyung stared at him. Then she smiled just a little. You always were too kind for this cruel galaxy. Fine, I will help you. But you need to listen to everything I say. First, you need defenses. I will send you instructions. Over the next week, Kyung taught Taman how to turn his mining station into a fortress. He set up sensors in the asteroid tunnels. He rigged explosives in key locations. He created fallback positions and escape routes. Kyung made him practice combat drills until his body ached. The cubs watched all of this with interest. They seemed to understand that something dangerous was coming. They stayed closer to Taman. They stopped fighting with each other as much. Even Isolde, the independent one, started checking on Taman regularly. 48 hours became a week. then 2 weeks. The kill team never arrived. That worried Taman more than if they had come on schedule. Something was wrong. Mira sent him a new message. It was just one sentence. "The Combine is coming." Taman looked at the 3 cubs. They were so much bigger now. Bomb was almost as tall as his waist. Isol could jump twice Taman's height. Juno was fastest, moving like lightning when playing. They were not helpless babies anymore. But they were not warriors either. They were just children. His children now. "Okay," Taman said to them. "Time for school." Taman watched Isol climb the metal framework he had built. The cub moved with growing confidence, using all 4 arms to pull itself higher. At the top, Isol turned and looked down at Taman with what he swore was pride. "Good," Taman called up. "Now jump to the next platform." Isol crouched and leaped. The distance was far, but the cub made it, landing smoothly. Bomb watched from below and made a competitive growling sound. The big cub charged at the framework and climbed even faster than Isol had. Training the cubs had become Taman's life. Every day he created new challenges for them. He built obstacle courses in the station's tunnels. He made them hunt for hidden food to sharpen their senses. He taught them signals using colored lights since they could not understand his words. Green light meant safe. Red light meant danger. Blue light meant come back to him. Yellow light meant hide. The cubs learned the system quickly. Too quickly. Sometimes Taman forgot they were not human children. Their intelligence scared him and amazed him at the same time. Juno was the fastest learner. The small cub watched everything Taman did and tried to copy it. When Taman used tools to fix equipment, Juno would pick up tools and examine them. When Taman cooked food, Juno would sit nearby and observe the entire process. The cub could not use tools with its paws yet, but Taman could see it thinking, planning, figuring things out. Bomb was the protector. The big cub always positioned itself between Taman and anything unknown. When strange sounds came from the asteroid tunnels, Bomb would go investigate first. The cub was brave, sometimes too brave. Taman had to teach Bomb that not every threat needed to be faced head-on. Isol was the problem solver. When Taman locked food containers to make the cubs work for their meals, Isol would study the locks for hours until figuring out how to open them. Once Isol watched Taman enter his security code on a keypad. The next day, the cub tried to copy the pattern. It failed, but the attempt terrified Taman. If Isol learned to use human technology, what else could it learn? Kyung sent regular messages with advice. She taught Taman combat tactics that he tried to adapt for the cubs. Military strategy was based on human thinking, but the cubs did not think like humans. They were predators with instincts Taman did not fully understand. "You need to work with their nature, not against it," Kyung told him during one call. "They are pack hunters, use that. Teach them to work together." Taman created hunting exercises. He built moving targets using old mining drones. At first, each cub tried to catch the targets alone. They failed every time. The drones were too fast and too small. The cubs got frustrated. Then Taman changed the game. He used the light signals to direct them. Blue light for Juno to chase the target from the left. Yellow light for Isol to cut off the escape route. Green light for Bomb to wait and strike when the target came close. The cubs did not understand at first. They kept trying to hunt alone. But slowly, over many failed attempts, they started to get it. When Isol drove a target toward Bomb's hiding spot and Bomb caught it, both cubs made happy sounds together. They had succeeded as a team. From that day on, the cubs began to coordinate naturally. They developed their own system of communication. Soft chirps meant, "I see something." Deep rumbles meant, "I'm moving." Sharp hisses meant danger. Taman learned their language the way they were learning his light signals. Mira kept sending information about the Combine. The news was never good. The organization had enormous resources and no mercy. They had wiped out entire colonies to get what they wanted. 3 Drathene cubs would mean nothing to them except valuable genetic material. But Mira also sent information about other survivors. There were rumors of more Drathene cubs scattered across the galaxy. Maybe 12, maybe more. All of them were being hunted. Some had already been captured. Others had died when their hiding places were discovered. Each piece of news made Taman hold his cubs a little tighter. He still called them his cubs now. They were not just animals he was protecting. They were his responsibility. His family. When Juno got sick from eating something wrong, Taman stayed up all night taking care of the small cub. When Bomb got its paw stuck in machinery, Taman worked for hours to free it without injury. When Isul had nightmares and made scared sounds, Taman sat beside the cub until it calmed down. The cubs trusted him completely now. They came when he called. They obeyed his light signals. They even let him check their teeth and scales for health problems. This trust was precious, but it also worried Taman. If they trusted all humans this way, they would be easy to catch. He needed to teach them caution. Taman started wearing different outfits. Sometimes he wore his normal clothes. The cubs would relax and play. Other times he wore his spacesuit with the helmet covering his face. When he did this, he acted differently. He moved aggressively. He made loud noises. He pretended to chase them. The cubs learned that not all humans were safe. Even Juno, who loved Taman more than the others, learned to stay away from him when he wore the spacesuit. They understood the concept of danger coming in familiar shapes. One day, 3 months after the cubs arrived, Taman received a message on his secret device. It was not from Kyung or Mira. The sender was anonymous. The message was simple. They know where you are. You have 1 week. Taman's blood went cold. He had been so careful. He had hidden all his communications. He had kept the station running normally to avoid suspicion. But somehow the Combine had found him. He called Kyung immediately. His sister's face was grim when she appeared on screen. I heard, she said. They tracked your messages to Mira. The Combine has people everywhere. You need to prepare for battle. I'm not a soldier, Taman said. His hands were shaking. No, Kyung agreed. But you are a miner who knows every tunnel in that asteroid. And you have 3 very dangerous cubs who love you. Use that. Taman spent the next week preparing. He moved supplies deep into the tunnel system. He set up false trails to confuse invaders. He created hiding spots where the cubs could stay safe. Every trap Kyung had taught him to build, he built. The cubs sensed his fear. They stayed closer than ever. Even independent Isul refused to leave his side. They made worried sounds and watched him with anxious eyes. Taman tried to comfort them, but he was too scared himself. On the 6th day, Taman gathered all 3 cubs in the main living area. He sat down on the floor and they surrounded him. Juno pushed its head into his lap. Bomb rested one large paw on his shoulder. Isul leaned against his back. They made a protective circle around him. I need you to listen, Taman said softly. Bad people are coming. They want to hurt you. We're going to hide in the tunnels. I will use the lights to tell you what to do. Red means run. Blue means come to me. Yellow means hide. Green means it's safe. Do you understand? The cubs made soft responding sounds. They understood the lights. They had practiced 100 times. But Taman wondered if they understood the real danger. Could they understand that people wanted to kill them? He showed them pictures on his computer screen. Images of Combine soldiers in armor. Videos of their weapons firing. The cubs watched silently. Their bodies went tense. Yes, Taman thought, they understood. That night he could not sleep. He watched the cubs rest in their usual pile. They had grown so much in 3 months. Bomb was now the size of a large tiger. Isul was almost as big. Even small Juno was as large as a wolf. Their scales had hardened. Their teeth were sharp. Their claws could tear through metal now. They were becoming what nature intended them to be. Predators. Weapons. But they were also still his cubs. They still played with toys. They still made happy sounds when he fed them treats. They still curled up with him at night seeking comfort and warmth. The Combine saw them as things to be captured or killed. But Taman saw them as people. Different people, yes. Dangerous people, certainly. But people nonetheless. They had personalities. They had preferences. They had feelings. Juno opened one eye and looked at Taman. The cub made a questioning sound. Are you okay? Taman reached out and gently touched Juno's head. I won't let them hurt you, he whispered. Any of you. I promise. Juno closed its eye again, trusting completely. That trust was a weight on Taman's heart. He was just one human with basic weapons and simple traps. The Combine would come with soldiers and advanced technology. What chance did he really have? But then he looked at Isul, who could solve problems faster than some humans. At Bomb, who was already stronger than any animal on Earth. At Juno, who learned new things every single day. These cubs were not helpless. They were smart and capable and absolutely deadly when they needed to be. The Combine was expecting to find 3 scared baby animals. Instead, they would find 3 trained hunters who knew these tunnels better than anyone. 3 cubs who trusted their human completely and would follow his signals without hesitation. Maybe, Taman thought, they had a chance after all. The sensors beeped. Something large had just entered orbit around the asteroid. It was not a mining ship. The Combine had arrived early. Taman activated the red lights throughout the station. All three cubs jumped to their feet instantly. They looked at him, waiting for the next signal. Taman grabbed his emergency pack and pointed toward the tunnel entrance. "Time to go," he said. The cubs ran. Taman followed. The battle for survival had begun. The Combine warship landed like a falling mountain. Taman watched through a hidden camera as soldiers poured out of the ship. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that could blow holes in walls. There were at least 20 of them. Maybe more. A woman stepped out last. Her uniform was different from the soldiers. It had medals and rank markings. This was their leader. Taman switched to audio and listened. "Standard sweep protocol," the woman said. Her voice was cold and professional. "The targets are juveniles. Capture alive if possible. Kill if necessary. Do not let them escape. Move out." The soldiers split into 4 teams. They moved toward the mining station with military precision. Taman watched them through multiple cameras. They knew what they were doing. These were not regular security guards. These were professional killers. Taman was deep in the tunnel system with the cubs. He had prepared this position for weeks. His main console was here, powered by emergency batteries. He could control all his cameras, traps, and light signals from this spot. The cubs sat quietly around him, waiting for instructions. They had practiced this so many times. Now it was real. The first team entered the station. They moved room by room, checking everything. When they found it empty, their leader's voice came over their radio. "Targets have fled into the tunnels. Dr. Siok, begin tracking." A new voice responded. It sounded excited, almost happy. "Wonderful. The genetic traces are strong. 3 distinct signatures, all healthy specimens." They went deeper into the asteroid. "I will guide you." Taman felt his stomach twist. They had someone who could track the cubs by their DNA. All his traps and tricks would mean nothing if they could just follow the trail. He activated his first trap early. When the second team entered a specific tunnel, Taman triggered a controlled collapse. Tons of rock fell from the ceiling. 2 soldiers were crushed instantly. The others scrambled back, shouting in panic, "Contact!" One of them screamed. "Trap, 2 down!" The leader's voice stayed calm. "Noted. All teams proceed with caution. The human knows we are here. Expect more traps." Taman activated the yellow lights. "Hide." The cubs immediately scattered to their pre-planned hiding spots. Easel climbed into a ventilation shaft. Bomb squeezed into a gap between 2 large rocks. Juno disappeared into a maintenance tunnel only small beings could fit through. In seconds, all 3 were invisible. The third team came down Taman's tunnel. They moved slowly now, checking for traps. Their leader was with them. Taman could see her clearly on his camera. Her name tag said Commander Yejin. She studied everything with sharp eyes, missing nothing. "Clever human," Yejin said quietly, using the asteroid itself as a weapon. "Dr. Siok, how far to the targets?" "Very close," the excited voice responded. "The genetic signatures are strong. They are nearby, possibly within 50 meters of your position." Yejin made a hand signal. The soldiers raised their weapons and spread out. They were directly below Isol's hiding spot. The cub stayed perfectly still in the ventilation shaft. Taman held his breath. One soldier pointed his scanner upward. "Commander, I'm getting readings above us." "Something is in the..." Isol dropped. The cub landed on 2 soldiers, crushing them under its weight. Before the others could react, Isol was moving. 4 arms struck in different directions. Claws ripped through armor. The soldiers screamed. Taman activated the blue light. "Come back." Isol immediately disengaged and ran. Bullets chased the cub, but Isol was too fast. The cub disappeared into a side tunnel. "Target 1 engaged." Yejin shouted into her radio. "Moving fast. Intelligence was wrong. These are not babies. Repeat, targets are combat capable. Adjust accordingly." "Good," Taman thought. "Let them be scared." He activated another trap. When the soldiers chased after Isul, explosive charges went off behind them. The tunnel collapsed, separating Yejin and 3 soldiers from the rest of her team. Now the hunters were divided. Taman switched cameras and activated the green light in a different tunnel. Safe. Bomb emerged from hiding and moved to a new position. The big cub was heading toward the separated soldiers. Taman's plan was simple. The cubs knew these tunnels perfectly. The soldiers did not. By using the light signals, Taemin could coordinate attacks and retreats. The cubs would strike fast and then disappear. Death by 1,000 cuts, but Yejin was not stupid. She immediately understood what was happening. "They're being directed," she told her remaining soldiers. "Someone is controlling them. Find the signal source," Taemin cursed. He switched to a backup console and activated it remotely. Now the light signals were coming from a different location. Let them waste time finding that one. Juno was in position. The small cub waited in a narrow maintenance tunnel. A team of 4 soldiers was coming that way. Following Dr. Seok's directions, they thought they were hunting. They did not realize they were being led into an ambush. Taemin waited until they were in the perfect spot. Then he activated the red light. Run. But this time it meant something different. This time it meant attack. Juno burst from the maintenance tunnel. The soldiers spun around, but they were too slow. Juno was the fastest of the 3 cubs. The small cub moved like lightning, striking and dodging before the soldiers could aim properly. One soldier went down with a torn throat. Another fell with deep claw marks across his chest. The remaining 2 soldiers opened fire wildly. Bullets ricocheted off the tunnel walls. One round hit Juno's back leg. The cub made a pained sound and stumbled. Taemin's heart stopped. Yellow light. Hide. Now. Juno limped into a side tunnel and disappeared. The soldiers tried to follow, but Taemin triggered another trap. A section of floor gave way, dropping them into a deeper mining shaft. Their screams faded as they fell. Taemin switched cameras frantically until he found Juno. The cub was in a safe spot, licking its wounded leg. The injury was not deep. The bullet had only grazed the scales. Juno would be okay. Taemin allowed himself to breathe again. But the battle was going badly. Despite his traps and the cub's attacks, the combined soldiers were adapting. They moved in tighter formations now. They covered each other better. And Dr. Seok was still tracking, guiding them closer to Taemin's command position. Yejin's separated team had reunited with another group. Now 8 soldiers were together, well-armed and alert. They were pushing deeper into the tunnels, directly toward Taemin. He had one trap left between them and his position. One chance to stop them. Taemin waited until they were in the right spot and then triggered the explosive. The blast was enormous. Fire and rock filled the tunnel. Dust choked everything. When the dust cleared, 6 soldiers were down. But 2 were still standing. One of them was Yejin. Her armor was scorched and dented, but she was alive. The other was Dr. Seok, the scientist. He looked terrified but unharmed. Yejin wiped dust from her face and looked directly at the camera. She knew Taemin was watching. "Impressive," she said. "But this ends now. Dr. Seok says your cubs are injured and tired. You are out of traps. Surrender and I will let you live." Taemin did not respond. Instead, he activated all 3 light signals at once, blue, green, and yellow together. It was a signal the cubs had never seen before. But they understood what it meant. All of us. Together. Now. 3 sets of heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnels. Isul came from above. Bomb came from the left. Even injured Juno came from behind. The cubs surrounded Yejin and Dr. Seok. The scientist raised his hands in surrender. "Commander," he said in a shaking voice. "There are 3 of them." "We cannot—" "Quiet," Yejin snapped. She raised her weapon but did not fire. She understood that if she killed one cub, the others would tear her apart before she could reload. The cubs did not attack either. They stood in a circle, growling softly, waiting. Taemin had trained them well. They would not kill unless he gave the signal. Yejin slowly lowered her weapon. "You are the human who has been raising them," she said toward the camera. "Show yourself." Taemin emerged from his command position. He walked slowly into the open area where Yejin stood. The cubs tensed when they saw him, ready to protect him. But Taemin held up his hand. "Wait, why are you doing this?" Taemin asked. "They are just children." "They are weapons," Yejin said. "The Dratheen nearly destroyed human colonies before. We cannot allow them to exist. That was war," Taemin said. "These cubs were not even born yet. They have done nothing to you." "Not yet," Yejin replied. "But they will grow. They will become killers. It is their nature." "Nature can be taught," Taemin said. He pointed at Bomb. "That one could have killed Dr. Seok 3 times already. But it did not. Because I taught it not to." He pointed at Juno. "That one is injured and scared, but it came to help me anyway." Because I taught it loyalty. He pointed at Isil. That one is smart enough to operate human technology, but it chooses to trust me, because I taught it to care. Yejin stared at him. You are a fool. The moment you die, they will revert to their instincts. They will kill everything they meet. Maybe, Taman admitted. Or maybe they will remember what I taught them. Maybe they will teach their own cubs someday. Maybe the Dratheen do not have to be monsters anymore. Dr. Seok was listening with wide eyes. Commander, he said quietly. He might be right. If they can be trained, socialized, that changes everything about our understanding of the species. We should study this, not destroy it. Our orders are clear, Yejin said. The Free Colony's soldiers were different from the Combine troops. They moved carefully and kept their weapons lowered. They treated Commander Yejin and Dr. Seok with respect even while arresting them. They did not point their guns at the cubs. Taman sat on a rock while medics treated Juno's leg wound. The small cub made nervous sounds but allowed the stranger to help. Bam and Isul watched the medic closely, ready to attack if anything went wrong. But the medic was gentle and quick. Soon Juno's leg was wrapped in clean bandages. A woman in a formal uniform approached. Her badge said she was Counselor Jiho. She was older, with gray hair and kind eyes. She stopped at a respectful distance and bowed slightly to Taman. Mr. Taman, she said, I am sorry we did not arrive sooner. Many lives could have been saved. How did you know to come? Taman asked. A xenobiologist named Hana contacted us, Jiho explained. She has been tracking the Combine's hunt for Dratheen survivors. When she realized they had found you, she called for help. She is here now, actually, on our ship. She very much wants to meet you and your cubs. Taman felt a wave of relief. Hana had saved them. The woman he had spoken to once for 5 minutes had risked everything to help them. He needed to thank her. What happens now? Taman asked. The Combine will send more soldiers. We are at war with the Combine over this, Jiho said seriously. Not officially, not yet. But they have been committing genocide across the galaxy and we cannot allow it to continue. The Free Colonies are gathering allies. This will become a larger conflict soon. I do not want to be part of a war, Taman said. You already are, Jiho replied. The moment you protected those cubs, you chose a side. But we are not here to force you into battle. We are here to offer you sanctuary, a place where you and the Dratheen can live safely. A new woman walked into the tunnel. She wore a ship captain's uniform. Her name tag said Captain Hijin. She looked at the cubs with fascination and respect, not fear. Our medical bay is ready, Hijin said. We can treat the cub properly there. We also have food synthesizers that can create proper Dratheen nutrition, better than whatever you have been feeding them. Taman almost laughed. They have been eating ground-up rocks and protein paste. Anything would be better, Hijin smiled. Then they will enjoy real food. Come, bring your family aboard. Family. The word made Taman's chest feel warm. Yes, that was what they were. Not a human and his pets. Not a scientist and his subjects. A family. The cubs were nervous about the ship. They had never been in such a large enclosed space with so many strangers. Juno stayed pressed against Taman's leg. Isil kept looking for exits. Bomb positioned itself between Taman and everyone else, but the Free Colony's people were patient. They gave the cubs space. They spoke softly. They offered food. Slowly the cubs began to relax. When the food synthesizer produced fresh meat with the correct mineral content, all 3 cubs ate eagerly. Taman watched them enjoy real food for the first time and felt tears on his face. Hana arrived later. She was younger than Taman expected. She looked at the cubs with scientific interest but also with genuine care. She did not rush forward or make sudden movements. She waited for the cubs to notice her. Juno approached first. The small cub sniffed Hana carefully. Then Juno made a soft sound and allowed Hana to touch its head. Hana looked like she might cry. They are beautiful, she whispered. I never thought I would see Dratheen up close. And they trust you completely. This is extraordinary. They are good cubs, Taman said. Smart and loyal. They deserve to live. They do, Hana agreed. And there are others. 12 more cubs confirmed alive. Maybe more we do not know about. The Combine is hunting all of them. We need to find them first. Taman felt a weight settle on his shoulders. You want me to help find them? Not just find them, Counselor Jiho said. She had followed Hana into the room. We want to create a sanctuary. A safe place where all Dratheen survivors can live. Where they can grow and learn and eventually rebuild their species. But we need someone who understands them, someone they will trust. I am just a miner, Taman said. You are the only human a Drathine mother trusted with her children, Jiho replied. That means something. Her choice was not random. She saw something in you. We all see it. The cubs see it. You have a gift, Taman. Will you use it to save a species? Taman looked at Isul, Bam, and Juno. They were watching him, waiting to see what he would decide. They trusted him completely. They would follow him anywhere. That trust was a responsibility he could not ignore. I need help, Taman said. I cannot do this alone. You will not be alone, a new voice said. Taman turned to see a familiar face on a video screen. It was his sister Kyung. She was smiling. I am coming out of retirement. Someone needs to keep you alive, little brother. You will have resources, Captain Heejin added. My ship and crew are at your disposal. We believe in this mission, and I will provide all the scientific support you need, Hana said. We will learn together. We will do this right. Taman felt overwhelmed. A week ago, he was alone on an asteroid with 3 cubs and no hope. Now he had allies, resources, and a mission that could change the galaxy. It was too much. It was impossible. But he looked at the cubs again and remembered the night Juno first trusted him enough to sleep against his side. He remembered Isul figuring out how to open a lock just by watching. He remembered Bam protecting him even though the big cub was injured. These were not monsters. These were people who deserved a future. Okay, Taman said. I will help. But we do this my way. The cubs are not weapons. They are not tools. They are individuals who deserve respect and choice. If any of them want to leave the sanctuary someday, they can leave. We protect them, but we do not own them. Jiho nodded. Agreed, this is about preservation, not control. We will create a home, not a prison. Then we have a deal, Taman said. The planning began that night. Captain Hyjin's ship, the Bright Dawn, would be their base. They would travel to known locations where Drathine survivors had been spotted. Kyung would handle security and combat training. Hana would manage scientific research and medical care. Taman would be the primary caretaker and trainer for all cubs they rescued. It was an enormous task. The galaxy was huge and the Combine had resources everywhere, but the free colonies were gathering support. Other independent systems were joining the cause. Nobody wanted to see an entire species wiped out for profit. 3 days later, they received their first lead. A Drathine cub had been spotted on a mining colony in the Outer Rim. The Combine knew about it and was sending a team. The race was on. Taman stood in the Bright Dawn's cargo bay, preparing for departure. The cubs were with him. They were wearing harnesses now, not to restrain them but to carry supplies and equipment. They looked like working animals, but Taman knew the truth. They were his partners, his team, his family. Isul made a questioning sound. Where are we going? We are going to help someone, Taman said. He activated the blue light signal. Come with me. There is another cub who needs us. A cub like you. Are you ready? All 3 cubs made affirmative sounds. They understood. They were going to save one of their own kind. They were ready to help. As the ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, Taman thought about the mother Drathine who had started all of this. She had died trusting a stranger to protect her children. She had made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. She had hoped that one human would be different from all the others who wanted her species dead. Taman hoped he was proving her right. He hoped she could see wherever dead Drathine went, that her cubs were safe and growing and learning to be more than weapons. He hoped she knew that her final act of trust had saved not just 3 lives, but potentially an entire species. Juno pressed against his leg. The small cub looked up at him with those yellow eyes that had once terrified him. Now they just looked like home. Your mother was very brave, Taman said softly. I promise I will take care of all of you. Every single one. We will bring them home. The ship jumped. Stars blurred past the windows. They were moving toward their first rescue mission. There would be danger. There would be battles. The Combine would fight them at every turn. But Taman was not afraid anymore. He had 3 deadly predators at his side who loved him. He had allies who believed in the mission. He had a purpose that mattered. The galaxy thought Drathine were monsters, but Taman was going to prove them wrong. 1 cub at a time. 1 rescue at a time. 1 new future at a time. Bam made a deep rumbling sound. Ready, Isul chirped. Ready. Juno pressed closer. Ready. Taman smiled. Me too, he said. Let us go save our family. The ship flew deeper into space, carrying a human and 3 alien cubs toward a future that nobody could have predicted. A future where an extinct species might rise again, a future where the most dangerous predators in the galaxy learned that they could choose to be something else, something better. A future where trust mattered more than fear, where family was not defined by species, where one person's choice to protect instead of destroy could change everything. The mother, Drathine, had seen that future in her final moments. She had trusted Taman to make it real, and he would, no matter what it cost, no matter how long it took. He had made a promise to a dying mother. He had made a promise to 3 cubs who depended on him.